Okay, and let's tackle Watase's Xtend episode. Just a reminder of the plan here. We'll do Watase's, and then we'll do the remaining new scenes that weren't marked with keys. And then we'll finish with the rest of Natsuhiko's scenes. And then we're done. We're finally putting the game behind us. Now for starters, Promenade. 3 years ago, in front of the fire station, Watase encounters the older sister of the girl he couldn't save. And let's jump. Watase's eyes widened in surprise and interest. Oh, yes, Kazami introducing herself.
君が我が局初の女性レスキュー隊員か。噂には聞いているよ。何でも優秀な女性消防官がいると司令長が話していた。
は、光栄です。
The woman known as Kazami gave him a courteous greeting. Her positive attitude gave Watase a good first impression. Our squad's first female rescue worker, huh? He remembered the conversation he'd had with Wataru long ago in front of this very fire station.
でも今のところ女性のレスキュー隊員っていないんだよね。
Ah.
なれるものなら私がその座につきたいもんだ。
This woman had reached the place Wataru had striven for. That. She probably had to put herself through hell to make it this far. Watase was honestly impressed.
まあそんなに硬くなるなよ。これからは同じ釜の飯を食うんだし。
しかし後輩ではあります。
まあそうか、そうだな。何にしろこれからよろしくな。活躍っぷりを期待してるぜ。
こちらこそよろしくご指導ご鞭達のほど。
Watase lightly patted the polite Kazami on the shoulder and headed back towards the station. But shortly after he entered the station... Wait, you said her name was Kazami Tachibana, right? Wait, then she's... He finally realized why Kazami had seemed so familiar. It had been several years ago. There had been a gas explosion at an apartment complex not too far from the station. Watase and the rest of the squad were dispatched to the site where they rescued 2 girls. But one of them, Nagisa Tachibana, passed away after she'd been rescued. Watase attended her funeral. Kazami, Nagisa's older sister and chief mourner, looked so utterly weak that it was almost awkward. That very same woman was... the woman I just talked to? The difference between the impressions she left had been so great at first that at first he hadn't made the connection. Watase went back to the front of the station to talk to her about it. By the time he got there, she was already gone. Guess she already went home? Watase stood still as he thought that. He had visited her several times, first on the day of the funeral, then over the course of the next few weeks. He had been trying to give Kazami the item her little sister entrusted him to deliver back when he saved her. Back then, Kazami had been in a mentally unsound state, unlike anything Watase had ever seen before, most likely due to the shock of losing her sister. She'd been unable to maintain a proper conversation and would either reject Watase's visits or tell him off. But it's been years since then. Looks like she got back on her feet. Watase was happy about that. He didn't know if her underlying reason for becoming a rescue worker had to do with her sister's death. But now that she'd overcome her sorrow and had joined the same world as him, Watase wanted to watch over her. I just would have kept reading that because I didn't really recognize it. Thieving Magpie. Now, we are correct that we're going straight in order here. So we're going 3 months later. Around the time Kazami began to call Watase captain, the two happened to come across each other at the bus station after work. Once Kazami had joined the squad, Watase would avoid bringing up her past when they spoke. He figured it was something she didn't want to bring up either, given how painful her memories of the time must have been. He was worried about her feelings, but he let none of his concerns show and instead treated her strictly as a subordinate. Then one day, Watase went to the bus stop after work and happened to come across Kazami.
隊長、お疲れ様です。
おう、お疲れ。
Kazami was a member of Watase's Team A, so she called him captain. Since he'd feel embarrassed to be called Mr. Kasasagi, Watase had decided to let her keep on calling him that.
立花もこのバスだっけか。
いえ、 ちょっとこっち方面に用事があって。
Oh. The conversation stopped there. He often talked to Kazami while on duty, but this was the first time where he'd spoken to her like this off the job. Watase felt quite awkward when he couldn't find another topic to talk about apart from work. Silence is killing me. Okay, I need a topic. I know. Watase suddenly remembered what day it was and brought it up with Kazami.
そういえば今日は七夕だな。
ああ、そうでしたか。仕事にかまけてて忘れてましたね。
空じゃ織姫と剣牛が年に一度のデートをしてるってのに。俺たちは地べたで仕事。あとは疲れて寝るだけだ。やれやれだな。
Watase was relieved to hear a rare laugh from Kazumi. He then looked to the skies and continued.
なあ、立花。七夕といえば、こんな歌があるのを知ってるか？
歌ですか？
笠崎の渡せる橋に置くし物。白きを見れば夜ぞ更けにける。
それは？
なんか百人一首の中の歌らしい。中納言役持ちだったかな。
Oh, 100 poems by 100 poets.
七夕の夜には織姫と剣牛を引き合わせるためにカササギって鳥が翼を並べて天の川に橋を渡すっていう伝説があるそうだ。
Oh, Kasasagi. Form a bridge across the Milky Way with their wings.
俺の渡せって名前はこの歌から取られたんだよ。カササギだから渡せる橋にかけてな。
Ah.
ロマンチックな名前ですね。
And you're now a rescue worker helping reunite loved ones.
まあガキの頃は女の子っぽくてあんまり好きじゃなかったけどな。今じゃそこそこ気に入ってるよ。
It suits you. Kazumi suddenly sighed when Watase said that.
ちょっと羨ましいです。
羨ましい。
私は自分の名前があまり好きではありませんので。
Oh?
どうしてだ？
風緑から取られたらしいんですよ、私の名前。
Kazamidori, wind. Ah.
でも風緑ってあまりいいイメージないじゃないですか。風向きが変わるとあっち向いたりこっち向いたり、芯がない人の例えに使われること多いですよね。両親は何を考えてこんな名前をつけたのか。
Kazumi broke out into a wry smile.
立花、そりゃ多分解釈間違ってるぜ。
え？
確かに日本じゃ風緑はいいイメージがないが、西洋じゃ逆なんだ。風緑には風に立ち向かって飛ぶ鳥のイメージがあるんだよ。ほら、風緑っていつも風上の方を向くだろ。
そういえば。
だから向こうじゃ芯がない人の例えじゃなくて、困難に立ち向かう者の例えに使われるんだ。
Ironically, going from that definition to this definition is her character arc before joining Sirius, right?
悪い名前なもんか。お前にぴったりの名前だよ。
She was on the verge of collapse after Nagisa died. But with Jun's urging, she turned to face the world head on. Kazumi looked down when she heard that for some reason.
どうした？
いえ、体調は博識ですね。
人は見かけによらないだろ。
Yeah.
脳みそ筋肉じゃシリウスの体調は務まらないからな。
さすがは私たちの隊長です。
Kazumi grinned at Watase's words. Oh, that's very direct. Je te veux. I want you. Well, here we go. Kazumi started acting weird a day after a harsh scolding from Watase. At first, Watase believed she hated him, but is this that one scene from Watase's perspective? The day after Tanabata, Watase and Kazumi had returned to their usual captain-subordinate relationship. They would occasionally get into fights about how they should go about their job. Then one day, a little accident occurred. Kazumi got a light burn while trying to save a little girl during a dispatch. Once they got back to the fire station, Watase proceeded to scold her harshly for her recklessness. Oh, it's this scene.
若干不安定なところがある。危なっかしくて見てられんよ。その点だけは改めろ。
はい。
Kazumi looked unusually dejected after she had been scolded. For that one moment, it reminded Watase of how she'd looked right after she'd lost her sister. And thus he found himself blurting out.
だが、まあ心情は理解できるよ。妹さんのことを気にしてるんだろ。
Kazumi's eyes widened.
隊長、もしかして私のことを覚えててくださったんですか?
Okay, yeah, this is definitely a scene we've seen on Kazumi's side. This time from Watase's perspective.
忘れるわけないさ。あんなに弱ってる女、見たことなかったからな。触れてほしくないんだろうと思って今まで言い出さなかったが。
いえ、申し訳ございません。私もずっとあの時のお礼を言いたかったんです。妹の贈り物を届けてくださってありがとうございました。
いや、いいさ。
Watase patted Kazumi on the shoulder with a smile. Perhaps that was what triggered it all. Ah, okay, so it's going to be an amalgamation of all these scenes. After that day, Watase and Kazumi's relationship began to change. No, perhaps a more accurate way of phrasing that would be Kazumi began to act strangely. For example, she would look away from Watase whenever he tried to talking to her, and she would run off if they ever crossed paths on the way home. What's going on? Does she hate me now or something? Did I do something to her? Perhaps bringing up her past the other day had been the wrong call after all. Her behavior also made Watase uneasy, making their relationship awkward. One day, shortly afterwards, Kazumi walked up to him as he was in the middle of his independent training on the fire station grounds.
隊長。
なんだ、立花。
For a moment, he thought she'd come to apologize for her rudeness. But what she said next was truly surprising.
次の非番の日っていつですか?
突然何の話だ?
いいから答えてください。
There was something ghastly about her expression. Though he found that puzzling, Watase answered anyway.
出勤表に書いてあるじゃねえか。木曜だよ。
それは偶然。
何が?
実は私も木曜なんです。不思議ですね。
Very strange.
何にも不思議じゃねえよ。ローテーション通りだろ。っていうか、何が言いたいんだ、お前は。
休日は何をして過ごされるのですか?
I felt like he and Kazumi were talking about two different things. This conversation feels like it's totally out of order. Does she have a fever or something? Watase answered despite his confusion.
休日の過ごし方ね。俺は無趣味なもんでな。トレーニングとか、あとまあせいぜい音楽聴いたりとか。
Oh, is that where she got that idea?
音楽、ジャンルは何ですか?
主にクラシックだ。
クラシック。
似合わないか? 昔から好きなんだよ。
Kazumi fell quiet at Watase's explanation. Then she raised her voice as if she'd resolved herself.
私も好きです。クラシック。
お、
あ
はい、ショパンとかモーツァルトとか
あ。
ベートーベンとかショパンとか。
ショパン好きなんだな。
Oh no.
好きです。そのピアノの人ですよね。確か
Oh no.
あなたが欲しいとか。
Watase was tempted to say that's Eric Satie, but he held his tongue. It's like she knows very little, nothing about classical music. She's trying. So why is she telling such a silly lie like that? Watase pondered the reason for Kasumi's incomprehensible actions. Soon enough, an answer flashed through his head. It can't be. Could it be? Tachibana? Likes me? The answer flashed through his head like lightning, sending a shock through Watase's body. Kasumi was about 25 years old, now that he thought about it, and how that he looked at her closely, she did have an attractive face. So he would have expected her to have some experience in romance by this point. Or was she acting like some love-struck schoolgirl talking to her first crush? Because she is. Am I thinking too highly of myself? Wait, but Watase had been through multiple relationships, but he'd been so busy with work lately that he was a bachelor at the moment. Kasumi being in love with in love with him wasn't a problem, but can't figure out what she really feels. Watase answered Kasumi while keeping his guard up slightly.
なんだ、立花よ。
え？
今度6名市民ホールに NDK 交響楽団が来るんだが、よかったら一緒に行かないか。
An instant reply. Watase was relieved to see a happy smile spread across Kasumi's face. Oh, man, I didn't expect there to be so late bloomers like her in this day and age. But he wasn't unhappy about this new discovery in the slightest. Despite that thought, Watase still managed to hide his feelings and return Kasumi's smile. After that, Watase and Kasumi would spend many of their days off together, and it wasn't long before they decided to officially start dating. Thus was the beginning of Watase and Kasumi's intimate relationship. Oh, what a bunch of adorable dorks. Vane por une infante defunte. Gone for a dead princess. Oh boy. Watase started going out with Kasumi. When she confesses to him about the anxiety she feels, his response is... Once he had started going out with her, Watase realized what a cute woman Kasumi was. She apparently had no experience with romance whatsoever, and she never particularly cared about what she wore. Ever since she and Watase started going out, she began to grow conscientious of her appearance.
どうでしょうか。
Oh, this is the scene that we saw in his memories. It happened one of their days off. Kasumi called out to Watase as soon as she arrived at the scheduled meeting place.
スカートなんてもう何年も履いてなかったから変じゃないですか？
いや、よく似合ってるよ、風見。
そうですか。よかった。
Though given Kasumi's good looks, almost anything would look good on her in its own way. Rather than her change in appearance, what made Watase happier was the consideration she showed for him that drove her so far as to dress nicely for him.
さ、そろそろ行こうか。映画が始まっちまう。
I mean, after a certain point, you don't have to go that far. It's only if you're comfortable with it, Kasumi.
はい。
Don't want you changing your tastes for my sake. Watase took Kasumi's hand and walked off with her for Watase's sake. After the movie, the two of them ate together and went shopping. Then they decided to head back home after having a little drink. Kasumi nestled up to Watase as she walked with him, her face slightly flushed.
今日は楽しかったですね。
あ、楽しかったな。しばらく非番の日も揃ってるし、また来ようぜ。
はい。
However, Kasumi suddenly hung her head downwards when she said that.
どうした？
ごめんなさい。こんなことを言ったら嫌な気持ちになるかもしれませんが。
Kasumi paused, then continued in a low voice.
楽しく過ごしているとなんだか罪悪感が湧いてくるんです。妹を助けられなかった私が幸せにしてていいのかって。
Watase gasped. It seemed the death of Kazami's sister still weighed heavily on her mind. The way she looked so weak at that moment reminded him of his own past self. We really are similar, huh? It was with that thought that Watase held Kazami's hand and spoke.
なあ風見、実はお前に言ってなかったことがあるんだ。俺も姉貴を災害で亡くしているんだよ。
Watase then told Kazami about his past for the first time. About how he had an older twin sister named Wataru. About how he'd almost died in the Great Rokame City arson. About how Wataru had sacrificed her own life to save him. And about how he inherited her last wish to become a rescue worker. Once he finished telling her all that, Kazami replied with a shaky voice.
俺も姉貴を失った直後はお前みたいな気持ちになったよ。自分が生き残っちまったことを苦痛にさえ感じた。でもな、風見、俺は思うんだ。誰かに生かされた人間は幸せになっちゃいけないのか。
Watase gazed at Kazami as he spoke.
無論死んだ奴はもう喜びも悲しみもしない。でも、もしあの世なんてものがあるとしたら、俺たちが不幸そうにしているのを見て死んでいった奴は喜ぶかな。そんなわけないよな。
Kazami's eyes widened at those words.
私は幸せになってもいいんでしょうか。
ああ、妹さんのためにもな。
そうなんですね。
Kazami squeezed Watase's hand back in a tight grip. Was that Yuri in the main game who said something along the lines of, live your best life and have enough happiness for all of us once you get out of here? I think it was something along those lines. And even though Natsuhiko said, fuck this, you're coming with us after that, I think that perspective is what Watase is getting at.
ありがとうございます。渡瀬さん。
Oh. Watase quietly wrapped his arms around Kazami's head. One thing he couldn't say was, I'll make sure you stay happy. For in their line of work, there was no guarantee any one of them would survive forever just because they were close. Once I start piling up on the years a little bit more, and stop working on the front lines, I swear I'll make her my... Couldn't tell her those feelings yet. Oh, you best believe. All he could do now was keep it all locked away in his heart.
行こうか、風見。
はい。
The Watase didn't say where they were going. Kazami gave a nod. Even without words, they could feel their desire for each other. Oh, okay. Just then, a gentle evening breeze passed by and engulfed the couple. Be back to life on the battlefield again starting tomorrow. At least for right now. Watase made a silent prayer as he gazed at Kazami's face. Only this moment of peace could last forever. Serenade and Jupiter. Ah, oh no. What is... oh. Do we want to play this scene? I guess we gotta play this scene. I mean, look at the timing here. Look at the timing here. Okay. Happened on one random night. Interval of time that appeared to be neither dream nor reality. Watase found himself lying down in a quiet forest. An evening breeze tickled him. It had a sweet, vibrant fragrance to it. Watase took a deep breath, filling his heart with that wind. After living so many days of inhaling nothing but smoke and dust, he thirsted for fresh air. Couldn't see the sky. It was covered by a canopy of leaves created by the interweaving maze of trees. Soon he heard the sound of a bird chirping. Where's it coming from? Watase got to his feet and looked around for that bird. He pushed his way through a thicket in the beautiful forest. The bird chirped again. Just then, a small bird flew out of the thicket and perched upon Watase's chest. Oh, so this is where you were. Watase touched the bird, and as he took extra care not to hurt it, it didn't fly away. It stayed with Watase and rested its wings. It felt cold. Its body was damp from the evening dew. For some reason, Watase wanted to grab it hard and kill it. Oh no! But instead, he treated it gently. When he did, the bird began to quietly sing. First, it did so in a voice so faint it was nigh impossible to tell it was actually singing. It gradually became louder and louder, echoing through the dark forest. Wind grew stronger, as if summoned forth by the song. The thicket shook, and Watase's hair swayed. He gently wrapped his hands around the bird to protect it. The bird kept singing in his hands. The wind grew stronger. Its power stripped the bark off of a nearby tree, causing its leaves to fall and cover him. Watase couldn't hold on anymore. His body was swept away by the wind, and he was sent flying along with the bird. Once it cleared the canopy of leaves, Watase's whole vision was filled with the starry sky before him. Two stars shined brightly in particular. Watase looked at them as he drifted in the night sky. Soon enough, the bird stopped singing. He opened his hands in surprise and found that the bird had fallen asleep at some point. Watase breathed a sigh of relief, gently kissed the sleeping bird. Was that a metaphor for... you know? That feels like a metaphor for, you know. I could censor myself from what I really wanted to say, and say that it was a metaphor for, Watase and Kazami's relationship. Watase found... The songbird found its way back to Watase. He wound up gripping it. Instead of gripping it tightly like he was prone to, he held it gently. And gradually it started to sing, reciprocating that kindness. And then together they flew off. And it was totally not a metaphor for our... I'm a mature adult. All joking aside, though, that was a really pretty scene. That was the prettiest metaphor for... you know. Okay, seriously, that was a really pretty scene. That was also a metaphor for... I need to stop. Stop. You know what happened there, though. That's still a really pretty scene. And now for some sad. Serenade. One night a year ago, Watase realized that to continue being a terrorist, he must give up his days of joy. His peaceful days eventually came to an end. Now that everything had changed, he couldn't keep living the same way he had before. Exactly 1 year ago from the present, Watase had a dream. That dream, he was walking through the park with Kazami, their arms wrapped tight around each other. A gentle breeze caressed them. Neither of them said a word. But their hearts were at total peace, and they felt completely satisfied. It was the tranquility Watase had always sought ever since the night when he'd lost everything. Just then he felt a presence behind them. Watase turned around in surprise. Oh, and saw Wataru standing there. She looked at Watase without saying a thing. Watase's heart brimmed with a sense of nostalgia.
渡る、久しぶりだな。俺たちを祝福しに来てくれたのか?
But contrary to his expectations, Wataru quietly shook her head.
じゃあどうして?
Before he could complete his question, Watase suddenly heard a sound above him. He looked up in shock to see cracks covering the blue sky. They grew wider in an instant, horrifically warping the heavenly dome. It's crumbling down. As soon as Watase had that thought, the sky fell down and crushed Wataru. Oof. Watase screamed and sprung up. Kazami, who had been sleeping next to him, woke up from his scream.
どうしたの渡瀬。
あ、いや、なんでもない。ちょっと悪い夢を見ただけだ。
そう。
起こして悪かったな。もう一度寝直そう。
Watase gave Kazami a light kiss, then lay back down. Kazami kept sitting up. He looked at Watase and spoke.
ねえ、渡瀬。
ん？
近頃、あなた少し変よ。
何が？
だってこの間もうなされていたし、それになんだか塞ぎ込みがちじゃない。悩みがあるんなら相談に乗るわ。
なんでもないって考えすぎだよ。
Kazumi sighed at Watase's attempt to dodge the topic.
そうやっていつも無理ばかり。
Watase furrowed his eyebrows, and Kazumi continued.
ねえ渡瀬、あなたは強い人だわ。優しくて高潔で心から尊敬できる私の英雄なの。でもいくら強くても傷つかない人なんかいない。傷も弱さも隠し続けて生きていける人なんていないはずよ。だからせめて私の前では少しくらい弱さを見せたっていいじゃない。
Kazumi smiled at Watase. Watase looked away. Her smile was too heart-wrenching a sight to behold.
なあ、風見。俺たち付き合ってどれくらい経つ？
突然何の話？確かもう2年になるけど。
そうか。
Though 2 years didn't sound especially long, those had been the most vibrant days in Watase's life. Watase loved Kazumi deeply. She had blown a warm breeze into his uneasy life. If he hadn't let his curiosity get the better of him, he could have kept living in those days. But now, I no longer have any right to be with you. It's been 2 months since he had learned the truth. The secrets behind the great Urugame City arson and those who had taken Wataru's life. And thus he had joined a terrorist organization so he could get his revenge. If their plan succeeded, the public would come to believe Watase was dead. And if he failed, he'd be tried for his crimes. Neither way would allow him to stay with Kazumi. Watase held Kazumi close to him and spoke.
風見、本当に気にしなくていい。悩みなんて何もないよ。
Why you always lying?
そう。
Kazumi sighed again. Thought ran through Watase's head, as he felt Kazumi's warmth through his arms. I have to break up with her. I have to do it as naturally as possible, so Kazumi doesn't get suspicious. And thus on that night, Watase abandoned the life he had been living. Pushed away all his memories of the time he spent with Kazumi and tried to forget them. Kazumi, I learned the truth. Now I can't go back. Watase steeled his icy resolve, focusing it on the day he could get his revenge. Whew. That was a journey and a half. Oh boy. Okay. NDK Symphony. The orchestra funded by the National Broadcasting Organization, NDK. Symphony has a long history and authentic ability. Each month they put on 3 performances each for 2 separate programs. 15 years ago they put on just 2 performances of an orchestral concert for the national anime, Psychic Girl Beyond Beyond. The concert became huge among fans, and the out-of-print concert CD sold at the time now fetches tens of thousands of yen. They also periodically perform concerts with classical arrangements of video game music as a gateway to introduce boys and girls to classical music. Thus, they are a symphony with a widespread repertoire that men and women of all ages can enjoy. That kind of thing would be... I feel like that kind of thing would get over if it... I don't know if there's something similar in reality, but I feel like that kind of thing would go over well. Eric Satie. Born Eric Alfred Leslie Satie. A French composer known for such pieces as the Gymnopédies, and 3 pieces in the shape of a pear. I definitely didn't pronounce Gymnopédie, right? Pidier? Nah, I don't know. Well, if I pronounce it all of the ways, then one of them has to be right, right? He's known as a forefather of musical impressionism, along with his contemporaries Ravel and Debussy. But from the perspective of the people of the 19th century, Satie was an eccentric composer who calmly disregarded the mainstream techniques and traditions of composition at the time. His oddly named piece titles that still raise eyebrows today, like Flabby Preludes for a Dog, Tiresome Pranks, and the ballet Cancelled. Oh. But contrary to the context of their titles, the actual content of the songs were often calm and relaxing and can be said to be the origins of today's genre of easy listening music. Likewise, when Kazami frantically tried to make small talk with Watase about classical music without knowing anything about their context or content, she surely seemed to be an eccentric like Satie in Watase's eyes. But unbeknownst to him, she would later become a calming existence in his life. Oh, that's fitting. That's cute. Summer and Winter Triangles. Tanabata, July 7th, 2029. Was the day of Natsuhiko Tenkawa's yearly hospital examination. He had not exactly come to enjoy the scent of disinfectants, but the meditative silence was satisfactory for him. Never again would he allow her to go through that awful experience. As he renewed his determination, sleepiness overcame him. It was the day of Yuri Kotono's Yuri Rendezvous. As she watched the boy's sleeping face, she thought back to the events of the previous year. She pondered about the year to come. It was just once a year, but it was a blessing for her. That was what she had set her heart on. It was the day of her death anniversary as well. It was the day Mashiro Toba felt the most melancholic each year. Yearly hospital examinations normally took half a day, but for some reason Natsuhiko's took an entire day. And it was Yuri's death anniversary as well. So it had become a habit of Mashiro's to look at the night sky on this day. There she'd see the summer triangle, Hikoboshi, Altair of Aquila the eagle, Orihime, Vega of Lyra, the harp, and finally Deneb of Cygnus, the swan. It was said that the wings of the Kasasagi were what allowed Hikoboshi and Orihime their yearly rendezvous. Why couldn't it have been the wings of the swan? Mashiro pondered that question. September 16th, 2029. Watase Kasasagi's sleep was interrupted by a nightmare. For no particular reason, he looked out the window to the night sky. It was not yet the ideal time to see it, but the winter triangle was there nonetheless. Betelgeuse of Orion, the hunter, Procyon of Canis Minor. I just realized that the Procyon from Labo is named after that, the small dog. And finally, Sirius of Canis Major, the big dog. The big dog. What connected Betelgeuse, Procyon, and Sirius were AD, Origami City, Labo, and BC. Life-saving Sirius now had to become a hound that hunted BC. Meticulous preparation was necessary for that hunt, but he swore he would succeed. He surrendered himself to the dark emotions and softly closed his eyes. On the decisive day 1 year later, the Kasasagi would finally move, solely to bring Orihime and Hikoboshi together again. In a way, the Kasasagi did move at one point to bring Orihime and Hikoboshi together again. Watase Kasasagi. Captain of Special Elite Rescue Squad Sirius Team A and member of the anti-BC organization Q. Conspired with Ukita and others to perpetrate a terrorist attack on Labo. When he learned how the Great Rokame City arson, the incident that claimed the lives of his parents and elder twin sister, was triggered by a test subject confined in Labo, and previously the PRC, he joined Q to save her. His calm, intellectual thought process had become a heavily emphasized side of him after he started assisting with Q's plan, but he had also begun to show a somewhat talkative side like Wataru's. Perhaps since he was relieved of stress. Perhaps out of the influence of the information Natsuhiko showed him through Senses Sympathy. In exchange for his full cooperation with the investigation of Q, his prison sentence was largely reduced and he was discharged. Through Anna's influence, he is now proceeding with a new life as a communicator commissioner attached to the ESP Bureau. It's interesting, more talkative side after Natsuhiko's influence. You could see it. Watase, it really came out the most in the double route. For obvious reasons, it's the route where he restored him, and then truly cured his malice. Truly cured his malice, brought him back to his terrorist self, and then brought him out of those dark thoughts. So he could be finally returned to the personality that... to the Watase that Kazami initially fell in love with, and the Watase that had fallen in love with Kazami. Watase, once known as Sirius's ace, was flawless in both wisdom and physical strength, but he is still lacking in knowledge and understanding of communicators. At work, he is kept in line by Enna, his superior. At home, he is kept in line by his loving wife and bustling little sister. The suffering continues for the thieving magpie who stole the hearts of women. Oh, Watase. Certainly keeping him in line, I'd say. But I'm sure he's happy. After everything he's been through, he can have a little peace as a treat. Just looking over to see what the pieces we were missing. Camouflage City. Oh, okay. Yeah, both of these are new. Camouflage City. So, what Mashita was up to after she ran off on her own. And a memory of Yuri. Kita. Oh, the history of Q. Virus. Anna's is... Okay. So this has to have taken place after meeting up with Salyu. Let's see, Salyu's... That was the plan is dead. Oh. Hour ago. As she worries over Natsuhiko and the other's safety, Salyu finds herself thinking about Natsuhiko for some reason. Was this the other one? This is the other one. Unknown day in the far-off past. Oh. We've seen Kazami's. So Jun's. She has less to choose from. Yeah, that's a scene from Jun's perspective that we've seen before. Honky Tonk Woman. First meeting with Watase. Okay. Both of these are Jun's. Yuri gets to... For whom the bell tolls. Ooh. This is 1. Level 7. The other is... Oh, emotions imbued within Natsuhiko's watch. Okay. So those are the unmarked scenes that are worth watching. And just from watching Kazami's unmarked scenes, I agree that they're worth watching, so that's the plan for next episode. And then we'll see how long that goes. And then we will finish off with the remainder of Natsuhiko's scenes. Let's do it.